Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
We will start with basics like what is actually a programming language and what is AMPscript and how do we use AMPscript in marketing. What happens is, let's understand it with one use case. You must have seen a lot of dynamic emails, right? Let's say, whenever we place any order and we receive the order confirmation email, in that order confirmation email we have the order details, right? Order number and order date or maybe other things that we all place the order for and things like that. Now, these things cannot be, like for each and every order. We cannot write this detail again and again, right? There has to be some code or there has to be some scripting, some dynamic thing which will take care of it. What we will do, we will basically write some program, we will write some code and that code will basically, generate this kind of thing. We will understand that how we can do that through AMPscript and how we can achieve that thing. AMPscript we will have marketing clouds, proprietary scripting language. What does it mean? Like you can only run the AMPscript here in Marketing Cloud. You cannot run it anywhere else, right? It is marketing clouds like Salesforce proprietary language where we use it. We use it to populate the dynamic content in the emails, in landing pages, in SMS messages and push notifications. The different use cases will be using it to retrieve the data from the data extensions. We will also look at how we can personalize the emails, how we can create the dynamic emails, how we can manipulate the data or format the data in email messages, and how we can add the real-time information inside the email messages. Let's understand it with one example. Like with a very basic code, there are multiple places where we can write the AMPscript. We can write it in the cloud page. We can also write it in the email message or the SFMC write. Just for the simplicity, I am taking the email message where we will be writing our AMPscript code. We'll go to Email Studio and we will go to Content. Let's go to Content, thank you. Let it load meanwhile how any programming language works. Each and every language, has to do some functionality. For example, if you take calculator, now there's some logic that is written behind the calculator. Now what it does to perform the functionality, it would require some input. Let's say if you want to do addition, that is a functionality that you want to perform with the calculator. Now what it would require, maybe two numbers, let's say 1 plus 2, and then you will basically press is equals to, and then it will return you 3, right? Let's say if you take this application, right, this Marketing Cloud web application. Now there's some programming code written behind this and this program. This program is responsible to perform different functionalities on this page. Let's say if you click on this, this page will open. If you hover over this, something like this will happen, right? Any programming language that is written, it has the basic functionality that it has to take some input, process that input, and then give that output. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create one new email message where we will be writing our AMPscript code. In a similar way, the AMPscript will also work. It would require some input, and then it will process that input, and then it will give us some output. Let's create the name and message, say AMPscript. Let's add the mandatory code snippets now. Here is the thing. There are different ways to write the AMPscript. Let's say our very basic requirement is that we want to print. Let's say hello world on the email message, or maybe let's say we want to display hi customer or dear customer on the email message, right? That's what we want to do. Now there are multiple ways to do it through AMPscript. There are three different ways. The first one is the AMPscript block. How does that work? We have to use this delimiter, and then this is your open delimiter, and this is your closed delimiter. Now what? What is the use of delimiter? What exactly are delimiters? Delimiters are separators. It separates our code from like. Here we are going to write the AMPscript. Right? Let's say I'm writing this AMPscript function that is output. Let's say dear customer. Now this is my AMPscript code. Now how the system is going to determine, or how the system is going to identify whether this is your AMPscript code or not. Or is this your HTML code, or is this, and this is your AMPscript code. There has to be some identification that the system can identify. These are the delimiters which help the system, that wherever the system will detect these delimiters, the system will understand. From here the AMPscript code is starting. And wherever these closed delimiters are found, it means that the AMPscript code has ended, and from now onwards maybe some other code will start, right? Delimiters basically helps us to separate our code, separate our AMPscript code from the HTML code. These are your delimiters. Now here we can write some. These are basically functions. About functions we'll understand in detail. For now, you just keep in mind what are delimiters. And this is the first way to write the AMPscript code. Now here, the basic requirement is that we just need to populate the dear customer message on the email message. If you want to run the AMPscript, what we need to do? We need to preview the email, and then AMPscript will automatically run. Here we can see that the dear customer is printed on the screen. This is the first way. The another way is that we can use different type of delimiters. That is, your double percentage signs is equals to followed by double percentage signs. These are your delimiters. Here, these are your open delimiters and this is your closed delimiters. The first syntax that we have seen, it is called your AMPscript block. Now this syntax that we are using, it is called inline AMPscript. AMPscript block and inline AMPscript. Here, we can also print the same thing. Let's say up. Now you must be wondering that, we can do the same thing with the first syntax as well, and we are also able to do the same thing with the second syntax as. But right, although there's a difference in terms of the delimiters, but we are doing the same thing. Right now, that the main difference is that our program might be of one line or might be multiple lines, right, when we only want to execute a single function. V is basically a function over here. Now what a function? Function is basically a name that you can use in order to perform a functionality. For example, let's say in our TV remote, right, we have different functions. You can start a TV, or maybe you're going to turn off the TV. You can turn on the TV, you can switch the channel, right. These are the different buttons, different functions that are given to you, and you can operate something using the TV remote, right. Similarly, in any programming language, we have different pre-built functions. Now these pre-built functions, we only have to use. We have to just provide the input and the input will be processed and we will receive the output. This V is one of the function. Now this function helps us to print something on the email message. We just have to pass some input. Whenever you find out anything that we have written after that, we have used this open braces and this closed braces. This is your function. Inside this function, we are basically passing the input. Similarly, if you look at this structure, here we are using output, which is one function, and inside that we are passing another function, and this another function is the V function, which is where we are passing this dear customer. Just to summarize, we have seen two different syntax to run the AMP script. One is the block AMP script, another one is the inline AMP script. Block AMP script you will always use when we have multiple lines of the program that we will see in just a while. And inline AMP script you will only use when we want to execute a single function, like in our case, like we are just executing the V function. We'll be talking about more and more functions in upcoming classes. Whenever you want to execute a single function, you can use the inline AMP script. As the name says, inline, it means it cannot have multiple lines, right? It can only have a single line. Now, another syntax that we have is tag paste. Let me copy. This is our delimiter, this is our open delimiter, and this is our closed delimiter. Now, whatever we will write inside this open and closed delimiter, that will be considered as the AMPscript code. Now, same thing, we can write it over here as well, and then we'll click on preview. We are able to see the same thing. Actually, we have been programming language, that is JavaScript, right? This syntax that we are using, it is it is similar to JavaScript syntax only. Either you can write your AMPscript code in this particular syntax or in this syntax. We generally use this syntax. We don't use this one, but this has been introduced because it is similar to the JavaScript, but we don't use it. Very often we avoid this one. We only use either this one or this one. This one if you have multiple lines of the code and the inline AMP script. If you have a single line, I mean if you want to execute a single function. These are the three different syntaxes. Now let's do one thing. We will take one example, and with that example I'll show you, I'll explain you everything in programming language. The example is, let me go to that extension. First we have this requirement in which what we need to do, that we need to check the if we have the customer's first name available or not. If we have the customer first name, then we need to display that dear and then the customer's first name. Let's say dear Rahul or maybe dear Raj or anything like that. Now, if you don't have the customer's first name, then we have to write a dear customer. That would be a greeting message in our email message. Now, how we can do that programmatically? That's something we are going to look at, that how we can achieve this in our AMPscript. Let me just prepare some test data. We'll go to our date extension, this one. This is the date extension. Let me just create one record where we don't have the first name. I'll just click on add record and I'll keep it null. The only record field is this one, right? I'll click on save button. Do we have any other? I think email is also required. Is his name required? I think the name is required field. What should we do now? Let me come over here. Let me change it first. Let me make it not required and click on save, and then we'll create the record, and then we will see that how we can achieve this use case using AMPscript. Now we'll come over here and again, let's click on save. This is done now. Now we haven't record where the name is not there. Let's come over here. Let me delete all of these things first. What we are going to do is we are going to write our program. First of all, let's see is. Let me just write the program and then explain you line by line. If we are at issue, Let me just pop it from here that it would be easy. Customer no. If it is empty, let's run this. We will check for where we don't have the name, it is showing dear customer Adaravati is showing the customer name right, test03, and it is showing general demo right. This is how we can implement it. Now let's everybody understood the use case, or anybody has any confusion with the use case, like what we are trying to achieve. This is a like line. Number 4, we have the delimiter, open delimiter that we are using right now. In the line number 5, we are using a variable. What is a variable? Variable is a memory block in the RAM. Let me show you what it looks like. Let's imagine that this blue area is your random access memory, which is your RAM in your computer. Now what happens is, let's say, whenever you open any application in your computer, right? You open maybe a YouTube or maybe open a notepad. Like any application you open, some memories are located to this software or to this application in the random access memory, that is your RAM. Similarly, whenever we will run our program, we like our program also, we will get some memory in the RAM. Now all those variables that we are creating now, variables are used to contain some data in the program. Let's say if we'll talk about calculator, right, when you're entering numbers, let's say 2 plus 3, we have to store these numbers somewhere right in the program that we can add them, or whatever the operation that you want to perform on these numbers. We can do that. First of all, we have to store the data in our program. We have to create the variables that we can store the data in those variables, and then we can perform the operation whenever required. Whenever we run our program in the random access memory, the variables will be created. And what are variables? Variables are the time curry memory location. Imagine this is your RAM, and this is one of the memory block that is allocated to this variable. Whenever you create a variable, let's say you create it over here, where at customer name in the back end, imagine what's happening. In the RAM, there's one memory block by the name customer name allocated to this variable. There's a memory block which is allocated to this variable, and right now it is empty. Whenever the variable is created initially, it is always empty. Now what we are doing, this is our variable. Variable is a temporary memory allocation in the RAM, and it has some name. What is the name? Whatever the name that we have given over here. And why we use variables? Because we want to store some data in our program that we can make future operations. We can perform some calculation or whatever it is on the data. That's why we have to store it, and that's why we have created this variable. Now we are using this if statement over here. This is called the conditional statement. Now in real life, we see a lot of conditional statements, right? Let's say if I get the money, then I'll go there. Or let's say in our use case, let's say if we have the customer name, then we will print the customer name, otherwise we'll print the generate greeting, generating greeting message. Right, to handle or to implement these kind of conditional statements, we have the like conditional statement in our AMPscript. The syntax of this conditional statement is we have this. If you have to write if, and then we have to write one condition, and this if condition is true, like if this, there could be two chances. Write if the condition will be true or false. Let's say if the customer name is empty or not. If the condition is true, then whatever we will write inside this, then a block or whatever we will write after this, that will be executed. Else or like the next statement will be executed. How we are implementing it over here. Here we have one function. This function will return either true or false. This function empty. It takes one argument. You can say one input now, that is name. Here it is basically name is the field. Name. This name is basically the name of the field in the data extension. Whenever we generate the preview, whatever the name of the customer, it will basically return that value over here. Now it will check. This function will check whether it is empty or not. For example, when you do the preview, this value will be given to the empty function. This is not a blank value, right? If it is not a blank value, then empty function will return false because it is not blank. Now, if it is blank, then empty function will return true. Now, based on the value that is written by this empty function, this if will work. For example, if it returns true, which means if it is blank, then what will happen here? Using the var keyword, we can create a variable and using the set keyword. These are called the keywords. Keywords are these special words that has a predefined meaning for the system. For example, when we write where the computer understands, I have to create a variable in the ramp. Now let's say if I'll write let's say where up this keyword or this word does not have any meaning in computer's dictionary or in computer's system. It doesn't have any meaning. It won't. The system will not be able to understand. What do I need to do? Keywords basically are those words which are predefined, which has a special meaning to computer. And computer understand what exactly needs to be done. When we write set, it means the system has to assign some value or such set, some value to the variable. What we are saying? That if empty, if the customer's name is empty, then we have to assign this value, this is my dear customer value, to this variable. Let's say if it is empty, then what will happen to this variable that we have created? This is now empty. What will happen? It will have this dear customer as a value. That will be stored over here. That is if condition. If it is true, there could be a possibility that the if condition is not true. Let's say the customer's name is not empty, then what will happen? Then we have the line number 8 and then the like. This line number 7 will not be executed. If this is false, then line number 9 will be executed. Now what will happen? The name means the value from the data extension. Whatever the customer name is, it will basically return that value and we will set that value to the variable. Let's say if it is test0, 0, 1, something like that will be assigned to this variable. Now and if is another keyword. This keyword is basically indicates that that if the conditional statement is over now, and we are not evaluating any more statement or any more condition over here now. In the line number 11, we are basically using the closed delimiter, and in the line number 14, we are using the inline AMPscript in way in which we are only using one function, that is v function, and here we are displaying the content of this variable. At the end of this program, we will have something in our variable right. Either it would be dear customer or either it would or it would be a name of the customer. Whatever the content of this variable, we will display using the v function. That's what we are doing over here. Anybody has any doubt? Now, like once you'll practice, you will understand more, but a few things that we need to understand. About the variable first. What? We have seen that variables are the name to the computer memory locations which we use to store the values. Right now, variable names are case insensitive. What does it mean that? Let's say if you mention the variable name as, let's say, let's select this. If you're mentioning like this and here you are mentioning this, maybe here you are mentioning like this, all these variables, refer to the same memory location. All these are the same variables. Whatever the case that you're using to write the variable name, it does not matter. It is case insensitive. It is case insensitive. And variable names can include the characters or numbers, but not spaces or commas. You cannot write a variable name like this. That is not the valid variable name. Or this is also not a valid variable name. You cannot have the space or comma inside the variable name. Variable names must begin with the other symbol and at least include one other Latin number underscore. Always the variable name will start with the other. You cannot write the variable name like this. It is invalid. We'll have to write like this only, and after that there has to be one character. Now, as per the best practice, what we should do, that we should give a meaningful name to the variable. Now, since it is a very, small program, that is fine. But let's say if you have a very lengthy program and technically it is also correct, right? If I write like this where it is also correct. But if you have a very lengthy program and we are using a lot of variables, let's say maybe 20-30 variables, and if we start giving variable names like a B, C, D like this, then it would be very confusing and it would make any sense and it will basically create a mess. Right now, if we give a meaningful name, it will help the developer to understand what actually we are trying to store in this particular variable, right? This is not the mandatory right, because technically we can give any name, but as a best practice, we should give a meaningful name. Variable declaration. How do we declare a variable? We use a var keyword and then we declare a variable. And how do we assign a value to a variable? We use a set keyword to assign the value to a variable. Now in AMPscript, this is the optional part. Even if you do not write this, you are good to go. Marketing Cloud understands that. You might have forgotten to write the value statement and it's completely fine. It will still work. It will give you the same result as previous, that where part is optional, if you write it well input. If you don't write it, that is optional. That we'll talk about. We talked about the keywords. Keywords are the predefined reserved words in our manuscript. Like we have where set for to then else and if right, if these are your keywords. We talked about conditional statement. One more thing. We have the constant. What are constants? What are constants? Constants are those values that doesn't change, right? That is the meaning of a constant, the values that doesn't change. Now, when we store something into a variable, let's say this is our variable, right, in which we will store some data. Right now, the data could be a number, let's say 1, 2, 3. The data could be maybe alphabet, let's say ABC, right? It could be of different data type. The type of the data could be different. Based on that, we have different type of constant. The data are the value that we are storing. On the variable, it could differ. Numeric constant. If we are storing a value, a numeric value like number like 1, 2, 3 minus 1, 2, 3, that will call it as a numeric constant. A string constant means if you are storing some alphabets or anything which is enclosed with double quotation or single quotation max, then that will be called as a string constant. Boolean constant like true or false value. These are your Boolean constant. Now, based on what type of data that you are trying to store in the variable, there are some regulation that we need to follow, right? If you are storing numbers, then we don't have to include the or don't. We don't have to include the value with the quotation marks. But if you are storing like abs any alphabet kind of value, then we have to include that with a double quotation or single quotation marks. Now, if you are storing a Boolean where you like true or false in the variable, then also we don't have to use the quotation marks. Only in the case of a string we have to use that. For example, here we are using dear customer, which is the alphabet, right? And that is we have to include it with the string. Now, if we, let's say, want to store 1, 2, 3 as a value to this variable, then we don't have to use the double quotation marks. If I'll do the preview and test, and then here you will be able to see 1, 2, 3 for such customers where the first name is not human, right? When we use the keyword down that we'll be discussing just now, that will come as part of a loop many times what we need to do in programming language. That we have to repeat something again and again, right? Let's say the same maybe order confirmation email in which, let's say, somebody has placed order for multiple products and we have to show the list of all products that have been placed by this customer. Let's say it is a list of 10 different products. What we need to do? We have to repeat the same thing again and again. In which what we will be doing, we will be retrieving the data from the data extension and displaying the row number 1. That is the product number 1. Again, we will be printing the row number 2, row number 3, row number 4. We are basically doing the same thing again and again. Whenever we want to do the same thing again and again, we can use the for loop. In any scenario, you must have seen, let's say, your bank statement or something, right? Let's say you get your bank statement, maybe in the form of email, in which you see that there's a date and then the amount, or maybe there's some description about the transaction or things like that. Right now, if it has multiple rows, it means it has the same thing, maybe some process in the back end which is doing the same thing again and again, printing the first row, second row, third row, right? Whenever we're going to do the same thing again and again, we can use the for loop. Now let's understand what is the syntax and how we can do that. If AMPscript, syntax is very simple, that we have to use a fourth keyword, and then we have to tell the system that from where we need to start. Let's say we need to start. Let's say from 1. We have to use variable number over here and expect start expression. 2 means it will go up. I mean it will go from high to low, low to high. I'll show an example and then end impression and then do, and then whatever the thing that we want to repeat here, we have to write it and then next and then variable. Let's understand it with one example. Let me copy this. Here we are printing the number from 1 to 5. Here we are using the open delimiter for keyword. Now what's happening? This is my variable right at the rate I. This is my variable. What will happen the moment? We will mention the variable. One variable will be created in the back end, right in the random access memory, and this is the name of my, let me just, this is my I variable right now. It is blank. But what I'm doing over here is that I'm assigning a value rate. I'm assigning a value of 1 to this variable. What will happen the moment the system will read this line? That value of 1 will be assigned to this variable. Something like this has happened till now. Now to keyword. Basically what it does is that it basically starts comparing the value. Now which value? Whenever you want to compare things, we need two things, right? If I'm comparing my laptop and my phone, I have two objects to compare right now. What will be compared? The value of I will be compared with another value. How we are comparing? We are checking that the value of I is less than or equals to another number or not. If the condition is true, then something will happen. What will happen? Whatever we have written inside the do. That will be done. Let's start checking the condition. The first time we are comparing is 1 less than or equals to 5. The condition is true. This will happen. Now what we are doing over here? We are just printing the value of I. What is the value of I? Currently, the value of I is equals to 1. What will happen? This function will display the value as 1. Now the control will come to line number 19, and in the line number 19 we are writing next at I. This will basically pass the control to line number 17. Whenever the next keyword will be executed, it will just go for the next iteration. That is that is why we have the loop. It will keep running. It will keep running until the condition evaluated, becomes false. It will basically pass the control to line number 17 with one more thing. Whenever it will pass the control, also it will increase the value of I. In the program it will look like this, but in the backend the value of I has been increased by 1 and it has become 2. Now we are comparing, is 2 less than equals to 5. The condition will be 2 and then again it will print the value. What is the current value of I? 2 that will be printed again. It will keep running for 3, 4 and 5. Now imagine the value of I will become 6 at some point of time right now here. if you will compare, is 6 less than or equals to 5. The condition is false, right? Neither the 6 less than 5 or equals to 5, right? The condition will become false. Now, whenever the condition will become false, the loop will be terminated and the control will come out of the loop. The loop we have from line number 17 to line number 19. It will come out of the loop and then the control will come at the line number 2, line number 20, and our program will end. Let me now delete this and let's see what is the preview. Here are the 1, 2, 3 is for this one. Let me just one, is it? Here you can see 1, 2, 3, 5 is being printed over here because of the for loop. Right now, whatever you want to do, let's say if you want to print the list of all the products that have been placed by the customer, that what we have to write over here, and how many times that we need to repeat, that will be controlled from here. If you want to repeat a for loop, let's see for 5 times, then we will write it let 1, 2, 5. If you want to repeat, let's say 10 times, you will write 1, 2, 10. Now there's another keyword that is down to. What will happen? Down to basically start comparing these two numbers on the other way around. It will check whether the first number, like whether the value of I is greater than or equals to the another number. The value of I here is 5. Right now the value of I is 5, 5. It will check whether 5 more than or equals to 1. Condition is 2. 5 is obviously more than 1. Then the line number 18 will be executed again. The same thing will happen and this time it, like if you are using down to, it will keep decreasing the value of 1 by 1. 1, 1 right. At some point of time, like it will become 4, 3, 2, 1 right, and at some point of time it will become also 0. We will compare whether 0 is greater equals to 1 condition is false, and then it will stop iterating and the loop will be terminated. If we will do the preview, it will have the value after I equals to 5 first, and then for 3, 2, 1, 1 right and out. For next we have is next we have is comments. Comments basically are the known executed notes. Let's see what we are doing. Let's say we have a very lengthy code and not just a single developer is working on this project. Maybe multiple developers are working, right? It becomes important for us to have the notes or to have the comments that the other person can also understand what exactly we are trying to do it over here also. Let's say we are working on this project, right? And maybe there's some issue that is encountered maybe after a few months. Now, if we go to this code and have a look at it, like if it is a very lengthy code, then we will become confused that what exactly is happening. If we have the notes, then it helps us to understand which portion of the program is doing what. For example, let's see if have the notes like this over here, that the below, let's say is printing, is displaying, creating, operating message, and we will close the comment. Now here we can write the comment that this is for loop demo. Now let's say tomorrow if we have the issue in displaying the greeting message, I don't have to go through the entire code, right? I'll come over here and we'll just see that this is the code that is used to display the greeting message, and I'll only take a look at it and we'll understand what exactly is the problem, right? Comments basically are helpful that we understand our code a little bit more better, and it makes it more readable as well. And how do we write the comment? We have to use this / followed by a strict, and then we have to write the comment followed by a state and then /. Let's say fill the preview now. These comments will be, sorry, I have written it outside the AMPscript code. That is why they are being printed. We have to write it inside the script like this while executing this code. What will happen? The system will ignore these comments, and only the non-commented part will be executed by the system. As you can see over here, the system, any doubt? In the next class, we will discuss more about more functions. This was the basic of AMPscript, in which we learned the for loop conditional statement variables, constant keywords, how you can display something right. What you can do, you can try these ones. Maybe you can create the conditional statement examples. Let's say based on maybe customer score, right? Maybe let's say if you are working for some loan department, and based on the customer civil score, we have to display a message, right? If the civil score is low, then we have to display that you are not eligible for the loan. If the civil score is good enough, then we have to mention that you are eligible for, let's say, 3 lakh rupees a loan or something like that, right? This could be one of the example for the conditional statements. Maybe let's say if you are working in the academy, or maybe in some university project, based on the customer's marks, we need to show the message. If the customers leave, if the student mark says maybe less than 33, then we have to show that your marks are not good enough, and you have to work hard, something like that, right? And if it is having more than 33, then we can show different message. You can make ample amount of conditional examples, and then you can try it out, right? I just practice and then let me know if you guys have any issues. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.